What is up, gamers? I'm excited for the video today because I have a new camera. If you watched my previous reviews, I apologize. They looked horrendous. I was legitimately embarrassed to post those videos, not because I've never recorded before, but because of how horrible it looked. I mean, that video quality looked like it was straight out of 2005. I'm pretty sure my old Motorola Razr recorded better videos than those. Shit, that just made me sound kind of old. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the Cooler Master MM710. Now, like the previous mice that I've reviewed, I used the Cooler Master MM710 quite a while ago, so I had to go back these last 2 weeks and use it again just to refamiliarize myself with its performance, kind of how it feels, and just the overall user experience of the mouse. The MM710 retails for $49.99. It's offered in two colorways. It is offered in black and is also offered in white. It comes in two finishes. It comes in a gloss finish as well as a matte finish. For this review, we are going to be looking at the matte black version. Now, jumping into the size and shape of this mouse, there's no doubt that this mouse is very small. It's going to be very hard to use if you have large hands. I would definitely only recommend this for people that have small or medium hands. The website says that you can palm grip this mouse, but unless you have really small hands, palm gripping it is honestly just going to be out of the question. So I have medium hands, and if I palm grip this mouse, you can see that my fingers kind of stick off the end really by a good half inch. So for me, palm gripping this is definitely not an option. But with that being said, the good news is that it is tailored toward claw grip. So if you're a claw grip user, the shape of this mouse is going to be perfect. You know, it was really designed with a large hump in the back, which really creates a nice shelf for you to really rest your palm on and get into that nice claw position. Another benefit is with this mouse being as short as it is, it gives you a lot of room to move it vertically up and down for those small adjustments. For micro adjustments horizontally in game, right, you can simply just rotate your wrist left and right. Vertical is a little harder, and that's where the short mouse, like I said, really is helpful. If you compare this, for example, I have my Model O here. You can see that the Model O is quite a bit longer, and although that can be comfortable and really helps in palm grip, if you look at how much I'm really able to make those kind of micro adjustments, the total travel is really minimized because it really does kind of fill up most of my hand. Moving on to the switches and buttons, the Cooler Master MM710 has Omron switches, which are good for 20 million clicks, which is fairly standard. The switches themselves have very little pre and post travel. It's not something that I ever detected while I was gaming, but when I look very closely, I can see a little bit of pre and a little bit of post travel, but that's fairly standard. But I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like here. So that's what that looks like. Again, really nothing out of the ordinary there, and I thought the switches performed very well. Now, in regards to the side buttons on the MM710, I actually didn't like these buttons at all at first because my initial impression was that they're just not comfortable to use, and that's because they come to a bit of a point. So you can see the buttons kind of have a sharp ridge. So like I said, yeah, that sharp ridge isn't comfortable to use, but with it being swept up from the bottom, it helps reduce instances in which you'll accidentally press these buttons, because nothing is worse than when you're in an intense fight or something like that and you accidentally press a side button. I may have done that a time or two or more, but this definitely prevented that, which I appreciated for sure. So the buttons grew on me a lot. There is one thing I want to note though. If you squeeze the side of the mouse, you can get the buttons to actuate. So I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like here. So as you can see, I did get the buttons to actuate by squeezing the sides, but honestly, I've never had that happen to me while I was gaming, and you probably shouldn't be squeezing the hell out of your mouse like that. I mean, unless you're really just trying to give that thing a death grip, I don't think it's ever going to happen. So that's not a worry for me. I don't tend to get caught up on it when people complain about the sides of mice flexing. A lot of these companies, they're trying to reduce the weight as much as possible. So you already have a very thin shell of plastic, and then you drill holes in it. So obviously, if you're expecting the thing to be indestructible and not flex, it's just not going to happen. It's plastic, it's not titanium. It's just the nature of the design. So that doesn't bother me at all. I don't grip my mice ever hard enough on any mouse I've had to ever notice any flex or even get it to flex while gaming. It's something I've always had to specifically try to recreate during testing to really get it to happen. So that's just me. Now the cable on this mouse is awesome. It's honestly just one of my favorite cables out there. It's super flexible. It's light. It's just they really knocked it out of the park with this. Really, the only mouse I think which I prefer the cable on is my Endgame XM1. Other than that, they really did a great job on this cable. The area where I feel like they didn't do a great job is in regards to the skates. I really don't like the skates on the MM710. This is the one thing for me that holds this back from being like a main worthy mouse. The skates, they're kind of beveled, so they have an edge around the entire proximity of the skate. And I feel like what causes to happen is then a lot of the contact is only riding on the edges of the skate as opposed to being throughout the entire surface of the skate. So I'll go ahead and I'll try and get this on camera so you guys can see the beveling, which I'm referring to. So you can't see it a little bit on camera. See the back skates. You can definitely see it on these back skates. So again, it's just not my favorite design, and I'm only saying that just because I was having a very hard time getting this mouse to track well. It was just very inconsistent for me, and I feel like the skates aren't the only reason that happened, but I feel like they're definitely a part of the reason in which my tracking results just really weren't on point to where they are with a lot of the other mice that I've used recently. So on the topic of tracking, I do want to talk about my experience with the MM710 over the past couple of weeks. In game, the MM710 was great. It felt quick. It felt snappy. Overall, I just felt very fast with this mouse. I'm able to flick on target very, very quick, thanks to the fact that it only weighs 53 grams. So definitely expected that. Now, in regards to kind of my aim training, the speed was really quick. I had some scores on grid shot where I was in the 220 millisecond range. I had quite a few in the 230 millisecond range, so it was very in par with where I was a few weeks ago when I did a lot of aim training with the Model O. The only thing with the MM710 is I don't think I was quite as consistent with the even in my speed as I was with the Model O, and again, it might come back to the skates. Now, where I was definitely let down by the MM710 is my tracking. I know I mentioned my tracking earlier, how I had issues. Well, for whatever reason, I just could not get my tracking to be consistent with this mouse. So part of it, I do think, is the design of those skates. I just feel like I'm not getting a consistent glide. Another thing to mention too, as opposed to just how the mouse glides, is also the sensor placement. So I've had several people tell me that the sensor on the MM710 is placed much lower than your typical gaming mouse. And I did compare it to some mice here, and that's definitely true. And I will go ahead and hold up my XM1 here, and then as well as I'll hold up the MM710. I'll try to get these in line as much as possible for you. Alright, so there we go. I've kind of got the bottoms lined up as much as I can. And you can just see, really just how much further forward the sensor is on the Endgame XM1 compared to the MM710. The XM1, it's going to be centered, in your hand a little bit more, where, the MM710 is going to be closer to your wrist. And maybe that's just having a bigger difference than anything on my tracking. Again, several other people have reported that it impacts their tracking, so it really could be what's throwing me off, especially because I've used a ton of mice now over the past few years, and they all seem to be relatively located in the same position except the MM710. So at this point, maybe my brain is just trained for that sensor to be kind of centrally located, over my hand. Now those are the two main things that I feel are really kind of holding back my tracking performance. Now in regards to precision, my precision was actually pretty good with this mouse, which is definitely really good to see, because I found that as you go down in weight, you usually sacrifice a little bit of precision to really gain the ability to increase your speed and just move the mouse, faster than something that's maybe a little bit heavier. Now, my overall thoughts on the MM710 is that it's a really good shape. It has one of the best claw grip shapes out there. It has great buttons, great switches. The scroll wheel is great. However, due to the poor tracking, I really wouldn't consider it to be a main worthy mouse. Now, if you play a lot of Fortnite or something like that, where you really need to be able to move your mouse at maximum speed and land a lot of quick flicks, then this mouse could be a really great option. But if you tend to play games that are very tracking oriented or precision is king, then I can't help but feel like there are better options out there. Now, I hope you guys found this review to be helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next review sometime soon.